I prefer the countries that people are either too scared to visit, or they think it's only a war zone, or they think they're terrorist countries. I just like to go in with it with an open mind and share the good side of humanity.
Welcome to the podcast and interview series with Drew Binsky. I am a huge fan of Drew's. I stumbled upon your work, Drew, while researching several tribes that I wanted to visit. And then I saw that you had already visited them and you had visited kind of all the tribes around the globe, which was really impressive to a history geek like myself to get to see someone who's been eating and living and traveling with these people. But I also was so admired about your positivity in so many of these countries. For any of the listeners here, Drew has been to all but 3 of the countries, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Which is insane because you're only 30, right?
Yeah, I just turned 30. Yep.
Very impressive. Very impressive. So I have some travel jealousy here, but anyway, Drew has traveled to some quote unquote dangerous places just like I have, and I've been really impressed with how well a lot of your experiences have gone. As much as my YouTube stalker self can say, you'll have to tell us. But I was impressed by that because I have to say, granted, I have this big smile and I tend to talk about things positively, but I've genuinely had very positive experiences traveling, like very. There's been a couple times where like carjackings almost happened or something, but it really didn't shade the color of the trip because the whole rest of it was wonderful and it didn't turn out badly. So so I was interested in speaking to you, and I'm so grateful you came today because I'd love to hear what your experience has been going to some of the places that others would perceive as dangerous, and if you found that they were or weren't, what your experience was.
First off, thank you, Mary, for having me on the podcast. It's a pleasure to speak with you. And we've been talking for like 3 minutes, but you're like brightening up the whole room that I'm sitting in with your smile. So that's wonderful. Um, yeah, I have 3 countries left. I prefer the countries that people are either too scared to visit, or they think it's only a war zone, or they think they're terrorist countries. Most of them are in the Arab world, that's just the reality of what it is right now. Some of my favorites are Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Somalia, Yemen, Eritrea. I just got back from Venezuela. So these places are so cool because I have the unique opportunity to go there and meet with people and share the good side. Because, for example, Afghanistan, I spent 5 weeks there on 2 different trips. There's 30 million people living in Afghanistan, and 29.999 of them are just really friendly and warm and hospitable and really nice people. So I like to shed the light on them. And so I like to meet with locals, and then they introduce me to their culture through literally I'll just jump in the car with them and I'll be like, okay, what are we doing today? And they're like, well, let's go here, here, here. I'm very, very spontaneous. Like every video I do is spontaneous, which is it's a good and a bad thing. I'm trying to like kind of have a better process so I can, increase the production value of my videos. That's a separate conversation. But yeah, I just like to go in with it with an open mind and share the good side of humanity, because as you said, all the experiences are good. Sometimes, I've had some pretty close calls, but I'm sitting here and I'm breathing well and happy. So if that says anything, then I think it's okay.
Same. I really find the same. I think with most places, just like anywhere in America, there's neighborhoods maybe a little bit more dangerous or something like that. But I think a lot of the world has gotten very negative press in the States. Like people think of Africa like the starving videos,
Yeah.
of the hunger aids and those kind of things. And when I'm in Africa, well, I'm in Africa right now, I don't tend to see that. It could be in pockets, especially with political warfare, things like that. But I don't tend to see that. I tend to see actually the opposite. When I go and see, if I'm away from the cities and I go to the tribes like the Pygmies, or we go to the Hadza or the Maasai, they have an abundant food source.
Sure.
And in my experience, they're not as hungry as we are. They seem satisfied all the time. Have you found the
Right.
same?
Yeah, definitely have found the same. People always find their own way through life, and it doesn't matter if I'm in the big city of Nairobi or, yeah, with the Pygmies in Central African Republic. I mean, they uh, they seem to be very happy people, and they're very family oriented, and that's just the beauty of being able to go to these different communities and see. I mean, I grew up in Arizona. I'm blessed to, grow up in a decent sized house with, a car and all this stuff, but in no way, shape, or form is that mandatory. It's just the circle that I knew growing up. And I would make the argument that people are happier in less developed nations because they have what they need. Like, walk around Beverly Hills and you'll see how stressed people are about work and about relationships, getting divorced, and that stuff. You just see it a lot less and less in some of these other communities.
I would totally agree. I found often they didn't even know, and granted, I don't know what your questions are when you go in, but I'm often asking health-based questions. So I was just with those three tribes, and then the Chaga and in Iraq, up in Tanzania, and I'm always asking, like, have you felt down? Do you have insomnia? Like trying to get at, do they have anxiety and depression, any of these kind of things? And the answers are always no. And they look at me really funny. Like, what do you mean people aren't happy?
Yeah.
What do you mean they're not satisfied? Or like,
yeah, we have lots of problems in the Western world. And we all also try to take medication to fix all that problems. Whereas in other places, like I was in Sinai province of Egypt about 8 months ago, and I met this organic pharmacist. That's what he calls himself. And in his backyard, he has like a plant for everything. And I made a video on him, and it's really cool. Yeah, you got to check this guy out. I'll send you the video link. But yeah, I mean, that's like, people go to him from all over the world because he just, 100 years ago, we didn't even have like labs to make medication. 200 years ago, maybe. So at one point, it was all like plant-based and nutrition-based. So, I mean, finding stuff from the ground and making that, having that, I can't speak right now, curing any sickness from the earth is how it's always been until like 200 years ago. And now in the Western world, we've ruined that through pharmacies and stuff. So I'm a big believer in natural remedies.
Oh, I am too. I've really seen, I mean, the listeners will know, but I went through a 12-year illness, and that's actually how I got into this. I started reading, archaeological books on diets and read about some of these tribes where they just didn't have any illness. And I was so curious about that. And they had pretty radical diets like the Maasai. And so I tried some of these traditional diets and actually put everything into remission. So that's why I'm going and I'm studying with all these different regions.
That's so cool.
Because from what I've seen, they often eat very different food, but they're just in perfect health until they implement the things from modern society. So whether it's the modern processing or what have you, and there's not too many threads between them. Like one thing I noticed in your pygmy video is one of my favorites. So good.
That was a wild experience. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was really I very much want to follow that.
Yeah, it was really dangerous. Like I left a lot of stuff off camera, but the way to get there, going through these roads and like having like random checkpoints, and then finding random locals to jump in our car to tell us where to go, and then trying to actually find them when we had to walk through the forest that was up to my chest, and we almost passed out of heat stroke. I mean, it was not safe at all. Like there were several points where I was like, we should turn back and go. And my friends were like, no. And it was their first time doing it too. So, but yeah, in the end, it turned out to be awesome.
I made a great film. No, I'm impressed. I've actually tried to go there several times, and all the guides for the last year and a half were like, no, they won't go. Is that how you take yourself? So
I actually didn't. Every guide I found said no, and I found a local friend named David, who was a friend of a friend. He's not a guide. He's just like this 21-year-old, I don't know, really nice person, but he's not a guide. And so he had a driver. He knows a driver, and the driver was like, yeah, obviously drivers are getting paid to drive. So he was like, yeah, we'll go. So we didn't have a guide. We picked up a local person in the community next door that was like, yeah, I know where the pygmies are. So for all we knew, they could have slaughtered us. I mean, I took the risk. I thought we were gonna be fine, but yeah, there was the only way to get out there is to like literally find a driver who will just take you, and that might be the most dangerous thing I've ever done when it's all said and when I think back.
You're very courageous. Very courageous.
Thank you. It's just worth the adrenaline rush and the story. you know?
Yes. Yeah. We got stopped at a checkpoint on the way to see the pygmies that are in Uganda. We got stopped for several hours and we were a bit nervous. They took our guide into the police station, which is just, like a metal house basically. And he disappeared there for hours and like emailing the consulate to let them know where we are, thinking it was going to turn
That was in
nasty.
Uganda. Wow, I thought Uganda was very stable compared to Central African Republic.
It is
It
compared to
is,
where you
yeah.
are. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
doubt about
Car is it's a wild place to say the
that.
least.
Tell me about, you visited the Himbas in Namibia.
Yep.
I haven't been there yet. What was it like to be with them? What was their diet like? What was your experience?
Have you been to the Omo Valley in Ethiopia?
No, I was going to ask you about that next. I had it planned during COVID. It was canceled.
You can still go now. My friend was there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
there's two sides of the story. There's like a bunch of tour groups that go in one side, and I think you will find that unpleasant because they'll just like run up to your car with like selling you stuff, and it feels very ungenuine. If you make a local friend, they can take you through many other communities. It was usually on the other side of the region, which is what I did for both the Himba and Omo Valley. And for the Himba, actually, we were road tripping across northern Namibia, and we just kind of stopped. I was with a couple of friends, and we stopped, and I saw a couple of people in the Himba tribe, and I kind of wandered off. And they're not the ones that I saw were not really used to seeing tourists, which was really nice. I had a translator with me, a local friend, and it's really cool because they paint themselves in this like clay that they grab from the nearby mountain, and the women are really notorious for putting it in their hair. It's like really thick. They use it as sunblock, like as a beauty, and just like as a way to identify themselves. So that it was really cool. I didn't see them eat really. So I don't know what they ate, but we danced around the fire, and they like, there was like a 5-year-old girl, and they were like, the mom was like, "Will you marry her?" And they were like serious about it. It was I won't forget that one. But no, it was great. We were just like dancing. Unfortunately, that video got flagged on YouTube and Facebook because the women have their breasts, and I tried to blur it a little bit, but when they're moving around the screen, and it's pretty unfortunate because on social media people say F word all the time, but you can't really show life as it happens. But Himba tribe, they're great. Hope to go back there and spend more than I was only with them for like 5 or 6 hours, so I hope to do an overnight thing because it's always overnight's way better because you get to see them like when the first hours of daylight come, like with the pygmies. That was like the best moment I had with them was when they were around the campfire, dancing and the sun was rising. Like that was just unforgettable. So yeah, Himba, you got to get out there and check them out.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm hoping to get back to the Omo Valley. I know you can get in now. You just have to quarantine for like 7 days or something, and then you can go down, which is good.
Pretty sure that changed because my friend was there 2 weeks ago and he didn't quarantine, so he must have found a way around it. Yeah.
You were making my day. That's great. I'm going to be right next to it in Kenya, so that wouldn't be hard to dip in.
Yeah, you should dip in for sure.
What has surprised you the most about some of the tribes? Like, what has been a tribe that really stuck with you?
That's a good question. Visually, it's the Omo. I mean, it's the what's the name of that tribe in the Omo Valley? Can't think of the name of that tribe, but like the women, I actually have behind me in those boxes are all my travel collections that I'm gonna put over the wall. But the women have these like lip plates. They're like this, they're like made of clay, and put them in their lip. That visually, that was the most surreal. But in Papua New Guinea, there were some really cool tribes there in the mountain regions, and they have like the masks and everything, and body piercings. In the Philippines, in Palawan, which is an island on the southwestern part, they're really, really people living really remotely, and they just have like the little waistband, I guess, the men, and they still use spears. And I was able to meet some of them. I did some in Greenland. I don't know.
I was going to ask you about Greenland because did you try any of the seal?
No, because they have polar bear and seal, and that's what they eat year round. And I didn't eat it because we stopped there on a cruise ship, and they advised us like that's food. There was 400 people on our cruise ship, and they were like, that's food for them. Don't even consume at their little gift shop because the town I went to, It's called Ito Tokormit. It's in the southeastern part. It's only a town of 300 people, and the next town is like 2,000 kilometers away. Um, Most of the people in Greenland live on the west coast in the capital of Nuuk, Nuuk. So we were like on the complete other side of the island, which it's like the biggest island in the world, or second biggest island in the world. So yeah, we were advised not to eat any of their food, but I did see like the seal that were hanging over, in the meat shop, and like I mean, it's pretty interesting. I had no problem with it. I showed some of it on Instagram, and people were like, "How could you show that?" I'm like, "Well, they don't have any food. They don't grow crops here. They literally only have the ocean, and polar bears can feed them for the whole year. So if you also live in that town, you'd probably do the same thing."
Yes, absolutely. You can't not be a carnivore when you live that far up north.
I know people don't understand. Like, there's no vegan shops there. I'm sorry.
No coconut oil here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing though, because they, at least back in the day, had really perfect health there as well as all throughout northern Canada and all the way down to the Pacific Northwest, who had a very similar diet. Lots of like seals, they would have more grizzly and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'll have to go. I haven't seen what their health is like now. Or if it's
really interesting how they're so healthy. I mean, I'm in the U.S. right now, and like it's crazy how unhealthy we are. We, as in like most everyone here, yeah.
Yeah,
even people who think they're eating healthy, they're still not eating healthy. So
no,
myself included. Yeah,
it's counterintuitive. That's why I like what you do so much, actually, because you really show what people are eating, and when you go to these places, you don't see the illnesses. At least I don't, until they bring in the modern food. And again, they can be eating different food from each other. They always are. But yeah, it's really impressive, because things that like one thing that blew me away on my most recent trip was that the women don't experience period pain. And I was like, I'm sorry.
I did not know that.
I'm sorry, what? It's so normal for every girl, and a very like healthy woman would expect to have period pain. So that was super eye-opening, that even on just the micro symptoms, that they don't even have those. It's absolutely incredible. And yeah, the plant knowledge is fascinating on what they use. Have you visited the Maasai and had the broth tea thing that's super bitter?
I've had many broths that are super bitter, but not from the Maasai.
It is really inedible. I would say.
Does it come in this like clay pot?
Yeah.
How do you consume it? Like with two hands like that?
They only make it when they do a kill. So twice a week or so, they'll take, it's really like a broth, but they call it a tea. They'll take the innards that they don't eat right away. So they'll eat like the kidney and the liver raw, and then take the innards, like all of it, the colon and the poo and everything, and put it into water. And then they'll take this, it's like a sea glass plant almost. The root is very bitter and it's milky. So like drops this milk, and they put it in there, and then they boil that for about 2 hours while they're roasting the goat or the cow. And then they have that afterwards, and they really attest that it keeps them very healthy. They all really love it. And it's not that it's gross or bad. They strain everything out. It's that it's so bitter. It's so bitter. Yeah.
I believe you. Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is, like, they've been drinking that since they can remember. So for them, it's just normal,
Yes.
It's weird. Like they would probably come in my house, and like, the way I eat chicken, the way we cook chicken, they're like, what is this? So it's just about perspective, it's really interesting.
100%. They actually really are like grossed out by chicken and fish.
Yeah.
They're very
fish, of course. I mean, well, they do have the lake. I mean, the one that's in Uganda and Tanzania and Victoria. Yeah, but a lot of it is game meat, of course, what they consume.
Yes. Yeah. And I think too, I don't know if you found this, because I know you went to Papua New Guinea, and they have more tribes per concentration than anywhere else.
Yes.
I know in the Tanzania basin that there's 127 different tribes. And one of the theories is that they kept the peace by having very different diets. So like the Maasai, they only eat the animals they raise, whereas the Hadza are only hunter-gatherers, and the Chaga raise they grow the bananas and they do the fish. So they all have these different diets. They're not competing with each other. Was it like that in Papua New Guinea?
I didn't have the full Papua New Guinea experience, because you have to fly from Port Moresby, the capital, above the mountain range. You can't drive because the mountain range cuts the whole country in half. I just was able to road trip in the southern part, which is the less interesting part culturally. There's 860 different languages and tribes in Papua New Guinea. As you said, it's the most culturally diverse country in the world. I was able to experience some of them kind of by the seaside, and they have a totally different life than the ones up in the mountains. So I didn't, unfortunately, get the full experience, but it's high on my list of places to go back and to fully document it.
That's really cool. That's
Mm-hmm.
really cool. So you have traveled the whole globe. Um, you are way more traveled than I am. My favorite travel item, if you were asked me today, would be different than 6 months ago. But right now, it is silk scarves because I can use it as a mask. I can put it over my
Mm-hmm.
shoulder if there's sun. I can do all sorts of things with it that are super handy. What is your favorite travel item?
It makes you look like a stewardess on an airplane.
Isn't it fun? I know.
Yeah. It looks like you're about to like come serve me peanuts or something. So my favorite like travel collection. So it's funny. It's the first time I've opened up those boxes since 2012. Since I've been traveling, I've been I'm a hoarder in terms of like currencies, little souvenirs, like paintings. I collect city maps. I collect coasters. Like when you go to a bar, the coaster that you put your drink on. I collect all my airplane tickets, train tickets, everything. It's in those boxes right there. So it's probably weighs like 250 total pounds, like 120 kilos, probably all of that. I've had to carry it from my parents' house, which is where I've been storing it, to my new house. But I don't know, my favorite, probably, are you asking me my favorite thing that I wear or just that I collect?
In general, yeah.
I have at least one banknote of every country, and usually every denomination. So if it's at like 10 different bills in each country, I'll grab every bill. That's pretty cool. I can't wait to like, I think I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to display it. This room is not big enough. So I think I'm just going to go through and like hand pick my favorite ones that I have that have memories, like from Yemen or something. Cause like euros are not interesting. Dollars, not that cool. But if I find like Somali, like Central African Republic, I think that'll be cool to kind of put up on my wall. So yeah, banknotes is probably my favorite collection.
That would be very cool. Do you have any of the $1 trillion notes from
Yes,
Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe. Yep, I have some of those.
Me too. I've got one in a frame.
Yeah. I got the whole pack of the trillion banknotes there.
It was too good not to get. I haven't collected anything. My house is bare because I haven't stopped traveling, so I haven't had a home base. So I haven't picked up anything. But now that we have this house, now I can start bringing things back from the
Totally,
trips.
you have to. It's the best.
Yes.
The best thing is to bring back stuff from your trips.
Exactly. Well, I am so grateful you gave us our time today. Gosh, thank you. And congratulations on the new house. Tell everyone, please, where they can find you.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a fun talk. Usually in podcasts, I don't talk about like tribes and diet, so that was cool. I'm Drew Binsky on all social media, DrewBinsky. Would love to chat with you guys. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to be a resource to you, and I'm just trying to inspire more people to travel. So if you felt inspired to travel from listening to this conversation, then I feel like we've done our jobs.
I think you've done the job. Everybody go follow Drew. He's the best. I'm a huge fan. And thanks again.
Thank you so much, Mary. Take care.